There's no romancing without some pain. Just like there's no loss without some gain. Just like there's no day without a blessing. Just like no paydays without finessing. Look, I know what I just said, but the only thing I do is smoke weed, get girls' numbers, and win Yu-Gi-Oh games.
No, you don't. It's not true.
Can I at least say I do one of them?
Which one? Play Yu-Gi-Oh? You haven't even got a girl or a girl's number. The closest girl you ever got was on a pack of sleeves or your Dama Mama mat.
Them Dama Mama mats hot though. What's going on with you, big dog? And it is, of course, an amazing day to be outed by Sabrina. One thing that she might beat me on, just maybe, might be getting girls' numbers, but I know one thing she can't do, which is get first place at the locals. Yeah, you don't like that, huh? You don't like being outed like that, huh? Get first place, boy. What's more important, women or children's card games? I'll take the children's card games. That's right, on Sunday, I got first place with an insane Mekk-Knight build. I played some really stiff competition despite it not being a lot of people, but I thought that I'd just share with you how insane Mekk-Knight is, just like how we said in yesterday's video when I was talking about insane decks. Kind of like how Sabrina never shares her girlfriends. But that's for a different story, I guess. Let's just jump into the profile.
So, ironically enough, I was actually going to drop from this event that I was playing because I received a buy. And I was in the middle of making a locals vlog. And in my head, I'm like, man, who wants to see a locals where you get a buy? And I just don't do anything. I was really down and hard on myself because a couple of weeks prior to this, I wasn't doing so hot with locals in my budget series because there's just a lot of things to talk about with the budget series. Let's not even get into that. But Sabrina actually convinced me to stay. And, you know, a couple games later, I'm in first place. Now, the locals wasn't necessarily a huge locals. It was a fairly small locals. But I'm telling you, there were no bums at that locals. Every single person that I played against, I think would do well at almost any event that you put them at. They were great players, very fun players, and I know a good amount of them. The Vegas community is a lot better, even when we don't have the amount of people at a certain locals than a lot of players may want to give it credit. So for my rounds, obviously I received a bye, but I've actually played against, hear me out, I played against a Fluffle player, and I actually know him personally. I've known him for years. He's a phenomenal player. He's actually the DDD player way back in the day. So he plays a lot of rogue decks. He understands the concepts of competitive decks. He plays a lot of meta decks too, and he's really good at what he does. From there, I played against Sword Soul, and that's something that Mekk-Knight is really good at playing against because of how Sword Soul works and how the strategy of Mekk-Knight works. So that wasn't necessarily a harder matchup. And then I played against Sky Strikers the rest of the way. And Sky Striker is another matchup that this deck just seems to flourish against. And then in top four, I just happened to play Fluffles again, the same player. Really intense match that came down to the wire. And then I played Sky Strikers in the final. And obviously I got first place because of that. Before I get into this, I did still create a vlog about this. If you want to see it, go ahead and let me know. But enough with my rambling. Let's get into the profile and why I played these particular cards and how they work. So basically, the Mekk-Knight strategy is a column-based strategy that you want to use to be able to special summon free monsters to your side of the field. I've noticed that a lot of players were running around and playing the artifact Scythe Locked, which is really good at preventing your opponent from playing with the extra deck, but a lot of the monsters that they make to their side of the field are incredibly weak and easy to get over. With that being said, Mekk-Knight is a deck that does use its extra deck, but isn't necessarily reliant, and that actually what got me a lot of games. Starting off, I run 3 copies of Mekk-Knight Purple Nightfall, 3 copies of Mekk-Knight Blue Sky, and 3 copies of Girsu, the Mekk-Knight Orcust. Now, quick fun fact. I have not played this deck in an entire year, and I built it an hour before local, so I just kind of threw cards together, looked at things that kind of worked. I'll let you know what things that I will change, but this was pretty standard for Mekk-Knights. I wanted to be able to open pretty much full combo, which if your opponent does, excuse me, go first and play any cards on their side of the field, what you can essentially do is set cards to your side of the field to make columns and summon these guys. If your opponent has 3 columns in a row, which unfortunately that never happened, even if they didn't know what I was playing, you special summon this guy, you get 3 searches of 3 Mekk-Knight cards, and essentially it's pretty much it's a win. It's almost a free win if you can do it in that particular way. There were a couple of combos for Mekk-Knights that I've actually playtested through. One was searching Psyframe Gear Gamma by special summoning Lambda and then summoning Purple Nightfall using its effect. Because it's a psychic, you trigger your Lambda's effect to search the Psyframe Gear Gamma, and then making IP Masquerena to be able to, gamma your opponent, then IP link them all off into a 4 negation Appaloosa. But I felt that this particular variant was a lot better because this deck is really good at making link 2s. I can make some really, really powerful combos after breaking my opponent's board or establishing a board of myself. But these are all the starters that are really important. All of them are they're all pretty beastly, and Girsu is like Sky Striker's worst enemy because they have to stop this card, or you get a free dump and you can put a token to their side of the field to turn off the striker cards. The other Mekk-Knights are 2 copies of Indigo Eclipse, 1 copy of Red Moon, and 1 copy of Yellow. These are the Mekk-Knight cards that you don't want to necessarily open with no other cards because they don't do a lot, but they're amazing complementary pieces for the rest of your strategy, especially red and yellow. A lot of people think that they're once per turn. They're not. If you put red in the same column as an extra monster zone and a monster under it, that's 2 free destroys, so long as you provide it you can banish Mekk-Knight monsters. And if you're yellow star, a lot of people don't know that Indigo Eclipse can move Mekk-Knight monsters on your field, not just Indigo Eclipse. If you can move yellow star to multiple columns, which I've done quite a few times throughout the tournament, you can destroy multiple cards on the field. So both of those came up like tremendously. Like they were just really, really good for the Mekk-Knight strategy. I wouldn't change any of the Mekk-Knight combinations. Some people were running green, some people were running the other one. I wouldn't run them just because I don't think that they're necessary. Like the extra Mekk-Knights are only complementary only after you have your combo. Moving forward for the World Legacy card, just 1 World Legacy Chalice. I didn't need the World Legacy armor. I don't think that armor is a bad card, but Chalice literally does everything that you want. It helps you follow up by searching a World Legacy card on your next turn. Moving forward for the spell cards, only 2 copies of World Legacy Memory. This card does conflict with the deck quite a bit because you are locked into only special summoning Mekk-Knight monsters for the rest of the turn. So it does kind of conflict with you a little bit, but sometimes it's a necessary extender. It's also a card that you can search technically and set to your side of the field. And it's just you special summon this on your opponent's turn, you're doing good. Like you're doing fine, baby, because now you get a free search. So it's a fairly good card that allows you to interact with your opponent. 1 copy of World Legacy Key. This card was, oh man, this card was phenomenal. Because this deck is just so good at stopping spells, traps, and monsters, the reason why this is so powerful is because hand traps aren't as powerful. My locals are starting to realize that hand traps aren't as powerful, but me being big brain, I was already like, yo, you're gonna start playing good trap cards and you're gonna start playing like good spell cards and monster effects. So World Legacy Key actually popped up a ton when my opponent wanted to use some of those trap cards in the same column as my Mekk-Knight monsters. A lot of times I would preemptively put that Mekk-Knight in that trap column, and then it does a good job when you're resolving the effects of your yellow and your red. And of course, people don't know that it can add World Legacy World Chalice for you to discard for other effects. Only 1 copy of Succession. There was maybe one time where I felt like I needed multiple copies of a Succession. If you don't know, it's a searchable monster reborn to a link arrow. And when I didn't have it, I just searched this and it was essentially the same thing. So this card's really good at 1. And 2 copies of World Legacy Secret. This card is ridiculously good in here because people think that it only special summons Mekk-Knights, but this card actually special summons level 5 or higher. So we do play DPE in here. And what a lot of people do is like they finally get rid of DPE and we can just bring it back with World Legacy Secrets and then start the whole cycle all over again. It also comes up really well with Dinowrestler Pankratops because Pankratops can destroy, then you bring it back and then you can destroy again. And of course, its other effect, the negate any monster effect that's in the same column as a Mekk-Knight. Unfortunately, against the Fluffle player, it never came up because he always had Forbidden Droplet to chain to make sure his monster wasn't on the field. But against Sword Soul, it came up. Against Striker, it came up because all you have to do is occupy the extra monster zones and they can't gain their Striker effects. So it's a fairly good card. 1 copy of World Legacy Whispers. I mainboarded this card because there are cards like Forbidden Droplet, Forbidden Chalice, Lightning Storm, Triple Tactics Talent. I felt that there was way too many great, powerful spell cards where World Legacy Whispers can literally just shut those cards off. And a lot of times if you are going second or if you are going first, your opponent forces you to go first because sometimes in locals, they see what you're at, like, oh, you're on Mekk-Knight, let's make them go first. And I'm like, okay, you make me go first, I'll just if I open one of these, I just search Whispers, and now you really can't play Yu-Gi-Oh, which essentially is a free win. This card also in the main board helped me so much against these striker players, because all I had to do is just pretty much search this, and you pretty much win from there. And of course prevent DPE from hitting the field. Moving forward, I played a going second Mekk-Knight build, and because of this, I didn't play any hand traps in the main board. I really didn't care what board my opponent made. I don't think that there's enough powerful boards in Yu-Gi-Oh that would like be able to respond to the type of cards that I played, and especially since this deck is just so good at going second. It's almost ridiculous how good this deck is. But with that being said, Kaijus came up like tremendously. Giving your Sky Striker opponent a Kaiju is almost a death sentence if they don't have DPE up. But a lot of times you can Kaiju to DPE, and then you're like, your opponent just literally cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh. It came up against Sword Soul because the only card that I'm really scared of is Baron de Fleur. So getting rid of Baron is really good. It literally just came up in every single matchup. Even against Fluffle, I Kaiju the Totally Awesome. Didn't care that he got the Water Monster, but I got the Omni to get off the field and was able to play. And then, of course, it sets up columns for your Blue Sky. This plus Blue Sky and your opponent having another card to occupying column it's bonkers. Next is one Dinowrestler Pankratops. Again, this is a going second deck, and this is probably one of the better going second cards, because not only does it allow you to address certain cards on the field, it also can pop other cards on the field, like you summon Pank. A lot of times DPE is in defense, you attack into DPE. They can either DPE to Pank or enforce the Pank to tribute, or you can get rid of another. It's like a really tough situation for them, and you can keep playing. This card like over and underperformed. I played 3 copies of Lightning Storm. Unfortunately, guys, this is not a cheap Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I played 3 copies of Lightning Storm. The reason why it overperformed is because obviously you Lightning Storm your opponent, and you get rid of their good cards. But it underperformed because once I realized I Lightning Storm my opponent, they had no monsters on the field, and it was a little harder for me to make columns. So it was like, it was good. But I do like that I can banish the purple Nightfall, and a lot of times lose all my monsters, which is sometimes the only face-up cards I have on the field, to be able to activate Lightning Storm. This was way better than Forbidden Droplet. Anytime I resolve this card, you pretty much win for this deck, because how the Mekk-Knights work is once your opponent establishes a board and you can break it, you can then establish pretty much whatever board that you see fit or what they're playing, which is going to be like with your World Legacy Whispers, your World Legacy Secret, or your World Legacy Key, whichever one that your opponent isn't going to do well against, and you can pretty much win from there. But Dark Ruler No More is really good at that. Triple Tactics Talent was the only true underperformer. I only used Tactics to look at my opponent's hand, but it almost did not matter what my opponent made or what hand that they had. Tactics Talent just didn't do much. Never used it to snatch a monster. Didn't even need it to draw, because if I was already in the position to use Tactics, I already had enough cards to play through their disruptions and pretty much win the game. And then one Call by the Grave and one Red Reboot in the main. These cards also underperformed. Red Reboot seriously underperformed because there was no trap decks that I played against. I was expecting so much more traps. And Call by the Grave did not come up ever, because again, the only hand traps that my opponent were playing were Nibiru's and stuff like that. And I got drolled, but I didn't have Call by the Grave in hand. So it is what it is. Oh, and Imperms, of course. But that is it for the going second cards. I felt that, I think this is 12, because this is right here. 12 going second cards was better than any type of hand traps that I could play, and allowing me to reestablish the board even if I lost it. Moving forward, I played 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Again, another expensive card that I think that this deck almost needs, because it gets you into the cards that you need. For some reason, even though I am playing 11 ways to get into my monsters, I just so happen to have this tendency to brick from time to time. So Pot of Prosperity definitely got in there, and it did not matter about any of the restrictions because we don't even need our full extra deck. And then lastly, to sum it up, 3 copies of Fusion Destiny, the Destiny Hero Celestial, and the Dasher. So one thing to wrap up with this card is a lot of people may ask, why play this over Dragoon? Dragoon is just Dragoon. It's just a standard negation. DPE isn't even good because of DPE. DPE is good, Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer, because of Dasher and Celestial. Being able to special summon a free monster to your side of the field and draw 2 cards, and then Celestial does almost the exact same thing as Dragoon in this Yu-Gi-Oh, which is out a particular threat, and it comes like it's just kind of ridiculous how that card works, and these cards work infinitely better than the Dragoon cards. Moving forward to the extra deck, one Avramax. I never made it. I wanted to play this card over Boral Sword and Access Code Talker because of theme, but There was never a time I needed Access Kill Talker or Brawl Sword. If I had game, I had game. I have enough big monsters to place on the board to just put 8,000 damage on the board. And the time that I was actually going to make Avramax, I had game. So it was like, it didn't matter. The time that I was going to make the Supreme Spectrum, again, I didn't need it. It was a good card. I feel that it'll come up when I like just want to attack for time or something, or get a particular Mekk-Knight to my side of the field. But again, didn't come up. BLS was a prime card. Actually, all three of these cards were the first three cards that I banished with Pot of Prosperity, like every single time. BLS never came up. There were times where I could have made it, but I had game or I had other plans. Both Morning Stars came up though, both of them. Almost every game, both copies of Morning Stars were pivotal for me, either searching the correct World Legacy card from my deck to my hand, or sometimes just getting rid of a card from my hand to the graveyard, whether it was World Chalice or just Indigo Eclipse to continue with my combo. Both libs came up tremendously. These are two cards that I would strongly consider playing 3 of, because this card's really ridiculous. Not only does it set a free card, it allows you to, when you link off with it, to get rid of an opponent's card into the deck. There was just so many cards. DPE literally fears this card. If you Dark Ruler, you make this, then you shuffle in DPE, and they're just like, well, at least I get to draw 2 cards in Special Summon. But that's pretty much it. But this card was phenomenal. Galatea never came up, even though there were situations I could have made it. But I play Galatea with the Girsu and the Zeus. A lot of times you go Galatea. And you guys already know, since Orcust Girsu is a Mekk-Knight monster, you make Galatea. You can shuffle in your World Wand if you want to. Then you make Girsu. You can send a card or attach. Then you attack and you make Zeus. That never came up, unfortunately, because I was just too busy controlling the board. 1 Predaplant Vert Anaconda, because this deck can easily make that rank 2. I did side out DPE a lot, so this was a prosperity target. Same thing with Dagda. If I opened Prod of Prosperity, this was the first card to banish since I didn't main any artifacts. 1 copy of Link Kribo. This card was important sometimes. And Secure Gardener, actually, you can link off Lib into Secure Gardener and get Lib's effect. That's why I played it. Really good card to out stuff. And of course, Destiny Hero, Destroyer, Phoenix Enforcer. This card, it was okay. It wasn't bad. It was okay. It wasn't like, a lot of times I sided it out because I was expecting players to go like Artifact Scythe locked me. And this was obviously going to be the most useless card to have like Dashers or Celestials in hand. And I opted to play better cards, especially seeing I can get over Scythe. I can get over their important cards even when they do Scythe lock me. And Scythe did come up quite a bit. Like, I got Scythe like crazy, and it was okay. My monsters are bigger than yours. Moving on to the side deck, there's 3 copies of Troll and Lockbirds here. In this particular deck, the only impactful hand trap I felt was Droll and Lockbird. I thought slowing my opponent down with infinite impermanence, effect failure, or whatever doesn't do anything. This essentially ends my opponent's entire turn, so therefore I felt that this and another hand trap were the only hand traps worth playing. Cosmic Cyclone, I really feared cards like Tri-Brigade Revolt, Sword Soul Blackout, just Imperial Order, I guess, if they just auto flip Imperial Order. Anti-Spell Fragrance, not so much. Unless I can, like, if I can find a way to search the yellow, I'm fine. But I really feared those one-ups. And I didn't want to play Mystical Space Typhoon. So I opted for Cosmic Cyclone because in the Virtual World matchup, this obviously gets rid of that Qinglong and that Chu-Chi, as opposed to Mystical Space Typhoon, which get rid of, that only gets rid of the card temporarily. The only other hand trap that I felt worth maining in Mekk-Knights, because I just want my opponent to pass their turn and keep cards on board, was 3 copies of Artifact Lancia against Dino, against Phantom Knight, against a couple of other decks. This card actually really would perform. And then, of course, I actually played the Artifact Lock, which was 1 copy of Scythe and 3 copies of Sanctum. Now, ironically, I never drew Sanctums throughout the entirety of the game. I knew my opponent would force me to go first. And another cool niche about this deck is that after you Scythe them, you can send this card to your graveyard, and since it is a level 5 higher monster, you just link into your Mekk-Knight Morning Star, sometimes with that, get your World Legacy secrets, and then special summon Scythe and Scythe lock them again. We play Call of the Hunteds in his deck, so we can Lancia and Scythe lock them for as long as we can search our World Legacy secrets. This card I never drew it. I would have loved to draw on it, but I never drew it. And then this is another card that I would have loved to draw, but I never drew it. If I were to change something, possibly I would take out the traps, because like I really just needed them to make columns. I'd probably just play better trap cards. I don't know exactly what I would play. Maybe Solemn Judgments. I don't know. But these 10 right here, these came up. These were saucy. These I just never drew, but I didn't really need. So the best way to illustrate how powerful the Mekk-Knight strategy is with simple combos. And these combos can be done in a myriad of ways. Blue Sky by itself, with your opponent having 2 cards in the same column, is a literally full combo, which is ridiculous. But also Purple Nightfall, it's the same thing. But Girsu in Blue Sky is also full combo, even when you're going first. So I'm going to show you the combo going first. And I'm also going to show you different lines of play. As the tournament started progressing, I started to main board or put Artifact Lancia in my games 2 and 3, regardless of how I went, because how the combo goes is that after you break your opponent's board, you can Artifact Scythe lock them with DPE in your Artifact Dagda. So that actually came up a lot. So the first thing I'm going to do is normal summon Girsu Mekk-Knight Orcust, using its effect to send World Legacy World Chalice, and then Girsu's effect to be able to special summon tokens to both of our sides of the field. Let me get a better token. There we go. I'll use that token. Actually, I don't even need to use the token immediately, but I will because I'm such a nice guy. A lot of times you have spells and trap cards you can set. I'll use that token for a link into Link Krebo, and then I'll special summon Blue Sky. Blue Sky's effect will add Purple Nightfall from my deck to my hand, and then I will link off both Blue Sky and Purple Nightfall because I have a World Legacy card in my graveyard into Lib Keyblade Master. Use the effect of Lib to be able to set World Legacy's secret to your side of the field, and then you can special summon Purple Nightfall. Now from here, you can use Purple Nightfall's effect to banish itself to be able to add Mekk-Knight Indigo Eclipse, and here's where your combo can differ. A lot of times, what I've noticed players do before was link off both Lib and the Girsu, and this is what actually I believe I was doing during tournament as well, which is kind of crazy. You link off into the Mekk-Knight Crusadia, the Mekk-Knight Morningstar, you discard the Indigo Eclipse, and now you can search another card from your deck to your hand, whether it's the World Legacy Whispers, the World Legacy Succession, the World Legacy Key, or Memory. You can search any of these from your deck to your hand, giving you 2 options. Now I can negate spells and monster effects with these 2 cards, and I can do it multiple times because Mekk-Knight Indigo Eclipse does shift a lot of times, or he shifts twice. You get a special summon and a shift. Also, they can't use this column either. And then you can use your Lib to get rid of the token so they can't link it off. But what I found to be a little more successful was a different combo. What I would do here is link off both Lib and the Girsu. We would link into the Artifact Dagda, triggering the effect of Lib to get rid of that token. And then we'd special summon Mekk-Knight Indigo Eclipse, using its effect to move over once, which will trigger the effect of Artifact Dagda. This will essentially give us another column. And then we will link off both the Artifact Dagda and the Mekk-Knight Indigo Eclipse into the Predaplant Anaconda. And now Anaconda's effect will activate, sending the Fusion Destiny and Celestial, as well as Dasher, to be able to fusion summon Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer. Now, you could also, this is another thing I was testing out, not getting rid of the opponent's token with Lib's effect, letting them keep that token, and then at the end of your sequence, use DPE to destroy your Anaconda and the token. And here's why. World Legacy Secrets only negates monsters on the field that are in the same column as a Mekk-Knight monster. So I want to get rid of as many non-Mekk-Knight monsters when creating this combo. On my opponent's turn, I can use DPE targeting himself and the Artifact Scythe, destroying both of them, triggering DPE as Chainlink 2, Scythe as Chainlink 1, or whichever one you feel is more important, which is normally the Scythe, so your opponent can't go spell it. Special summon the Scythe and then trigger its effect. And now my opponent only has 1 column where we know they can summon monsters to and be able to gain their effects. Because from there, you can activate World Legacy Secret to be able to special summon Indigo Eclipse to the side of the field and negate 2 other monster effects. Another thing I want to point out is that DPE will come back the next turn, and of course I still have that draw 2 plus special summon 1 free monster to my side of the field, regardless of what it is, as long as it can fulfill the conditions. I also have Purple Nightfall to come back. I forgot. Purple Nightfall and World Legacy World Chalice. So this deck definitely has a ton, and I mean a ton, of follow-up. And that is pretty much it for the Mekk-Knight deck. I really hope you enjoyed. It was a very fun profile to do, very fun deck to do. Again, if you want to see me do that vlog, then go ahead and let me know, or release that vlog. Go ahead and let me know, is this something I could work on and eventually release? Or if this deck profile is more than enough, then just go ahead and let me know that too. Also, be sure to check out these videos, and be sure to catch me on Twitch when I do stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as I'll catch you on the next one.